end of the day, but I'm going to switch it up how I'm going to get there. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to a Division II school, which is a smaller school in Georgia, and I'm going to go there for about a year or two, get my grades up, get in better shape, play football, and maybe in those 1 or 2 years I'll find out about a grant. Maybe I can get a scholarship and transfer to a big university. And then from then on I'll jump into the pros. That was my plan. So we go, my mother and I and a couple of other friends, we go to this small school in Georgia. And we take a tour of the campus, and everything was great. I'm thinking, already in my mind, I'm envisioning, this is where I'll hang out, this is where I'll do this is where I'll do that. And all of a sudden, I come to the front office of the college, and somebody comes out and actually tells me that I don't actually have enough credits, and that I will not be eligible to play sports at the college level for 2 years. Now imagine this, and why was that? Was because Arkansas and Georgia had different school systems. So I lacked credits. So needless to say, I'm 18 years old, and now I feel like this person just came out of nowhere and completely crushed my dreams. Everything that I wanted to do for 18 years of my life, she all of a sudden just completely just said, oh, guess what? It's not going to happen, at least not now. So of course I was devastated, I was broken down, and I thought to myself, there's no way now I'm going to college. If I can't go to college and play sports, then I'm not going to college. That was my mindset. Of course, my mother didn't want to hear that. I graduate from high school, and I get a job in the summer, and I'm just kind of hanging out. I just turned 19, I'm just hanging out. And one day, I'm flipping through the channels, and I see a commercial. And I think to myself, maybe. Because the great thing about this country that sometimes we don't realize is that there's a lot of options out there. Sometimes we don't realize those options are there, and sometimes we don't take the proper steps to give ourselves the most amount of options, but there's a lot of options out there. But I felt at 19 years old, I didn't have a lot of options. And all of a sudden, this option presented itself, and I thought to myself, why not? So I go and I find out all the information I can possibly find out about this potential option and see if it'll work for me before I went to my mother. I did this all behind my mother's back. Because going to your parents is almost like going to somebody that you want to invest in your company. You just don't go to somebody and say, hey, I want to open up my own store, give me $10,000. And they're going to be like, okay, here's $10,000 because it sounds good. You have to have a full-out package. You have to have a business proposal. You have to have all those facts, all these things going on. And I feel like these days when you go to your parents and ask them just to go to the supermarket, just to pick up gum, they want to know references. They want to have, credit reports. They want to have all these things, So I get all this information, I gather it, I go to my mom and say, Mom, guess what? I figured it out. I think I know exactly what it is that I want to do. And she's seeing me very enthusiastic, and she's like excited as well. She's like, okay, what is it? And I said, I want to join the United States Army. No, you're not. That's literally how it went. No, you're not. Now, she said, no, you're not. Why? Because my mother being from El Salvador, in the early 80s, there was a war happening there. So she understood what war was about. At the same time, a few months before, because I graduated in 2002, a few months before, in this very city, 9/11 happened. We already had troops already in Afghanistan. There was rumors of possibly troops going to Iraq. So my mom, in her mind, was, there's no way I'm allowing my only son, but my youngest child, to go off to war, because I know that's what's going to happen, and possibly losing him. So she said, no way. Well, I was firm about my choice and firm about my decision, and I said to her, what else am I going to do? This will give me an amazing opportunity to be able to learn about life, to be able to travel. It'll give me an opportunity to be on my own, to be independent. It'll give me an opportunity to go to college and while I'm in the military and get those credits that I need. But then at the same time, it'll give me an opportunity to give back to a country that has given so much to us. My mom said, well, what about football? And I said, well, I got it all figured out. This is how it's going to work. I'm going to go to the Army for 3 years, Mom. That's it, just 3 years. When I get out of the Army, I'll be, close to 22 years old. But then I'll have the money to go to college. I'll have the credits. I'll of course, be in top-notch shape because that's all you do in the military is work out and stay in shape. And then what I'll do is I'll go to the university. And even though it's a little late, I'm a little older, but I can still make it work. I can play for 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years of football, and then I'll jump right into the pros. So it may be a little delayed, but I'll still get there because I'm still focused on my long-term goal. I'm not quitting. I'm not giving up. Even though it's not going to happen the traditional way or the way that I envisioned, I'm still focused that one way or another, I'm going to get there. She says, well, sounds like you got a good plan there, so okay. So I joined the United States Army in September 2002, and I joined as an infantryman. Infantry, for a lot of you that don't know, is front lines, combat, fight. I mean, that's what you're trained to do. It's one of the most dangerous jobs in the military. Now, my friends, including my mother, were upset with me that why, if I was thinking of doing 3 years, why would I pick one of the most dangerous jobs in the military? Well, it's just my personality. If I'm going to do it, I'm just going to do it. That's just who I am. So I joined as an infantryman. I went and did basic training from September to December of 2002 in Fort Benning, Georgia. After Fort Benning, Georgia, in January of 2003, I was assigned to my unit, which was the 101st out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Now, I get to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I'm 19 years old. You know, this is my college, so I'm excited. I'm enjoying all of this. I'm on my own now, you know. I have my own little barracks room. I have my car. Like, this is great. You know, this is life to me. And one day I'm doing my job. I'm enjoying it. And my sergeant, who had been in for like 17 years, comes up to me and taps me on the shoulder. And I turn around, and he says to me, "Martinez, I just want you to be prepared that we will be deploying. And you need to understand that we will be deploying." This is my response to my sergeant. "I'm not going anywhere. I just got out of basic training. I just got here. Come on, relax, Sergeant." That's what I said to him. First of all, after I got done doing push-ups for telling my sergeant to relax, I carried on with my business. I was never meant to be in the military. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. I couldn't tell military time. They would say, "What time is it?" I'm like, 1:30. I'm like, "That's wrong. Do more push-ups." Okay. So if I would have stayed in, I either would have figured out the time or learned how to talk to my sergeant, or I'd be really buff right now. So I didn't comprehend, you know, because even though when I signed the dotted line in September of 2002, and even though there was rumors about a possible war happening, even though I knew it was a possibility, I never thought that it would actually be my reality. And I think that we all have those moments in our life where we see something on TV or something happens to a friend of ours and we think, "Oh my God, that's the worst thing ever." But you never think, that can probably happen to me and my family. You never think, I have to really appreciate this moment, appreciate this opportunity. Sometimes we don't go to that place because there's too many things going on. So I never thought it was going to be a reality for me. Well, needless to say, that reality became a reality in March of 2003, when I found myself on a plane with the other guys in our unit on our way over to the Middle East. 19 years old, how do you prepare for war? How do you prepare for combat? How do you prepare for that? How do you prepare from being away from your family and essentially having all these beautiful things taken away from you that you enjoy on a day-to-day basis? How do you prepare for that? What movie can you see? What video game can you play? What story can you hear from the service member that served before you that'll prepare you for all these things? I have a tendency to believe that the best teacher and the best way to learn things is actually being in it. And what I did is when I got to Iraq at 19 years old, even though I didn't necessarily, understand what was happening around me, and I just said to myself, I just have to get through it. I just have to adapt and overcome every single day. I just have to get through it. That's all I have to do. I have to trust the training, trust my knowledge, trust everything that I have been taught in a short amount of time of being in the military. It's going to help me be able to get through every single day and hopefully through this deployment. Well, one thing about me is humor is a very big thing. I love to laugh, and I'm always joking around about, crazy things. And everybody around me, I always try to make them laugh in some way, shape, or form. And one thing about the military is when you're deployed, humor is a very big thing. Because when you're away from your family, when you can't talk to them, when you can't do all these things, you have to kind of entertain each other in the midst of all the stress and all the things that you're being exposed to. So early on, our job in Iraq was to patrol through the southern parts of Iraq and just provide security for different jobs in the military. So what does that mean? As infantrymen, we're trained to fight. So you would have somebody that would come to our unit and say, "Listen, we're in supplies, we're in transportations, we may be cooks, we may be medics, and we need to get from A to B. Get us there safely." And we'd say, "Okay." We'd look at a map. And we say, "Okay, this is the route we're going to take, just follow us." And essentially, it would be almost the same kind of concept, the same idea of when you see a high government official come into town and you see a caravan of vehicles surrounding, or the president, and you see the caravan of vehicles surrounding that person. They essentially are saying, we're going to put ourselves in between the target and the possible enemy. And that's what we did. And I enjoyed that. I loved doing that. I loved helping these people get to where they needed to get to. Because at the end of the day, for me, when I laid my head down at my cot to catch those 2 or 3 hours of sleep, I thought to myself, I helped them get there safely. And from that point on, they're going to go do and provide a service for somebody. And I'll never see that, but at the end of the day, I know I'm doing something for them. I'm helping them in some way. Well, on the 5th of April of 2003, woke up that morning, we got our orders, and our orders were to patrol from the southern part of Iraq, where we were, up to a place called Karbala, which is southwest of Baghdad. So it was north of where we were. And we had to escort this convoy of like 80-something vehicles up to Karbala. No big deal. This is what we've been doing for almost a month, they've been in Iraq. So we say, okay, this is the route. This is how we're going to get there. We start driving. Well, we get to Karbala safely, and the guys go off and go wherever they needed to go. But then, when we thought we were going to turn around, because our plan simply was to get them to Karbala and turn around and come back to our camp. But then all of a sudden, through our radio, we got a different order. And our different orders were we had to meet up with another unit just north of the city and go secure an area. Okay, no big deal. Again, this wasn't a part of our plan, but we adapt and we overcome. We make it work. So we looked at a map, we figured out how we're going to get there, and we said, okay, this is how we're going to get there. So there was 4 of us in a Humvee, and I was the driver. And my sergeant says to me, who's sitting in the passenger seat, he says, Martinez, just follow the 2 vehicles in front of you. I'm vehicle number 3. No big deal. I'm 19 years old. I have one hand on the steering wheel. I have the window halfway down, the Kevlar that you wear on your head to protect your head from any kind of, impact is somewhat kicked up on my head, on my forehead. So if you would think by looking at me that I thought I was driving a Ferrari down Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. That's how cool I thought I was. Driving this Humvee with one hand, like as if a stylish car, like the girl's going to see me. I was in the wrong place. So I'm driving this Humvee with one hand, and my sergeant starts joking about something, and we're laughing. And meanwhile, I'm looking at the road, laughing at him, but I'm looking at the road, and all of a sudden I see the first truck turn onto the paved road, the second truck turns onto the paved road, and then I turn onto the paved road. I turn onto the paved road, and I'm following the 2 trucks in front of me, and we're all laughing now about whatever it was that we were joking about. And literally, I remember looking at the road, and they joked again, and I looked at my sergeant and laughed, and I was just laughing at him, because of whatever he was joking about. And then literally all of a sudden I looked at the road, and I drove maybe from here probably to the beginning of this speaker right here, when all of a sudden, boom! How does that happen? How does that happen when one moment you can be laughing about something and enjoying yourself, and the next moment, there's a boom in your life? The next moment, all of a sudden, you're completely conscious. You're trapped inside of a Humvee, and the Humvee all of a sudden catches on fire, and it's engulfed in flames, and you think that you're going to die. How does that happen? I was trapped inside this truck. I couldn't get out, and I was completely conscious the whole time I was trapped inside this truck, but they said it was about 5 minutes. The other 3 guys were thrown out of the vehicle, all walked away with minor physical injuries. Now, they still live with today with the mental note of seeing me go through what I went through, even though I'm okay. But I was trapped inside this truck, and I can actually see my hands. The way I was trapped inside the truck, I can actually see my hands. They were right in front of me. And I can see my hands change only in a way that we see on that, high-budget Hollywood film that we all pay $13, $14, $15 to go see. Or in that way that one time a year when we all decide to get creative and we dress up like a character, a scary character, but then when we come back home after the party, we wash our hands and our hands go back to normal. My hands weren't going back to normal, and I knew that. I was gasping for air the whole time I was trapped inside the truck. And screaming and yelling at the top of my lungs for someone, please, please, just to come pull me out. Thinking to myself that every plan, every goal, every dream that I had for myself, short and long, would all of a sudden now just completely went up in smoke. I thought my life was going to end. But I really believe that all of us have this something extra inside of us. That maybe there's no word for it, I don't know. Maybe it's not a part that physicians, doctors, all these people that study, maybe they can't really identify it, but I really believe there's something extra inside of every single one of us, that when we find ourselves in the fire, there's something that kind of gives us that strength just to hang on just a little bit longer. And that little something that I had just came out, and I just said to myself, all I have to do is just hold on just a little bit longer, just to possibly give somebody a chance to maybe save my life. And literally, the next moment, I was pulled out of the truck.